Hi folks, it's Switchback. A friend of mine reached out because a lot of these prepared freeze-dried meals come in 2-serving packs. Some people don't want to eat 2 servings at one time. And to be fair, which meal you're using is going to depend. For example, most Mountain House meals are gonna be 1 serving, but something like a Peak Refuel, Backpacker's Pantry, those are gonna be a 2-serving meal. So what do you do if you're solo and you don't wanna make both? There are multiple right answers on this one. What I personally do is use some kind of a Mylar bag that I can seal myself, potentially put in an oxygen absorber depending on how long it is until my trip, and then I can store it. Some people might use a freezer Ziploc bag. If you choose to use a Ziploc, make sure it is a freezer bag, because if you're going to add boiling water to it, you definitely want a freezer bag. I personally am weird about the plastic, but then Mylar has plastic, so that's a whole other topic that we're not gonna cover in today's video. I would recommend trying to do this as close to your trip as you possibly can, just for the sake of the fact that it's going to be opened and therefore exposed to air, more likely to get contaminated, get funky, get moisture, all the fun things that will ruin a meal. Make sure that with everything that you're doing, you're keeping good hygiene. So wash your hands before you start touching the food, and make sure that your counter is cleaned and wiped down. I like to weigh mine to try to keep it as even as possible. It's gonna be hit or miss. It's not gonna be a perfect system, but it helps a lot. If you don't have a food scale, you can always eyeball it. It's entirely up to you. I like to weigh mine in grams. So I'm gonna go ahead and set one of these bowls on there and then tare it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and open up my meal. I'm gonna preserve the oxygen absorber because I will store one of them with it. And then I'm gonna find out what is the exact weight of all this. And I know it says it on the package, but I like to be precise. All right. So 152. So 76 grams in each package. I have a brand new Mylar pack here. And before I actually start putting anything in here, what I will do is write on it that this is chicken coconut curry. And I will write how much water is necessary for it. And if there were any special directions, then I would add those too. So this one will need 5 ounces of water. So remember to divide that amount of water in half, because of course you have 2 equal servings now. From here, because I have that weight, now I can start to pour back some of this. And I can use a spoon if I'm concerned that this is gonna get too messy. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that today. And I'm gonna watch the scale and wait for it to hit 76. And then I'll know that the other half of it is in here. And I try to make sure that I get a good mix of the ingredients to keep that fairly even as well. So 85, where are we at? 77. 76, perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this one up. I'm going on a trip in a couple of days, so I will be taking that one. And then the other half, I'm gonna go ahead and pour into this Mylar bag, and I will put the oxygen absorber in with it. And then there are multiple ways to seal them, and some bags will seal differently from others. These particular ones will go with my food sealer, And when I use the food sealer, I like to do it twice just to be 100% sure that nothing is leaking, that there's no air getting in, anything like that. However, these bags that I have, they do not do the food sealer. So I use an iron, and I will show you how I do that with this bag. I lay down a towel and then I try to get as much of the air out as possible for the sake of space. And then you can see where it's melted together there. I like to flip it over and do both sides. Whether or not that's necessary, I don't know. Probably not, but I like to be sure. And there's our meal. I do like to keep everything dated. I like to try to do the first in, first out, that kind of thing. But you can see that I do that. This is one that I actually made. This is another meal that I made. But I do like to keep track of the dates of everything. And I won't necessarily shake all the food down because it will actually pack up pretty nicely like that. I have cut these down before, and actually I've used them split in half before, but then I have to use my knife to cut it open on the bottom half because it doesn't have the little tear pouch or the little tear tabs along the top. When you're packaging your own food, deciding whether to include a desiccant pack or an oxygen absorber, never both together, is a whole other controversy all unto itself that I'm not going to tackle in this video. I personally do like to use oxygen absorbers. When you open up a pack of them, they start getting oxygen, which means that you need to package the ones that you aren't using up in a food sealer pouch. So I make little food sealer pouches, reseal it, and I package just a few of them in each one because I'm going to be opening it, closing it potentially multiple times, depending on how many things I'm packaging up at once. When it comes time to reheat your meal out on the trail, I personally tend to use this mug. This is my coffee mug. You've probably seen it on all of my trips, but it has little markers on the inside to tell me how many ounces of water. I will measure out that water, pour it into my pot, and then boil just that amount so that I can just pour that directly into the food bag. These ones are gonna be a little bit more insulated than something like this. That said, I still prefer to put these into something insulated. And I know I've talked about my Amazon pouch. I hold on to these because I do go through them. They start to get a little funky after a trip or two, but at least I'm getting a little bit more use out of them. So what I'll do is pour that water into the meal, stir it around, and then drop it in like that. I go ahead and fold this over, and I use a binder clip to keep it closed. And then I'll just kind of prop this up on a rock or somewhere, but I keep it close by, of course, because critters. If you are heating up in your own packs like this, some people will actually save a pouch from a professionally made meal, and then you still have an extra insulation. And this is also going to be smaller, bulky, smaller, less bulky, lighter weight than this. However, I have a lot of other uses for this. That's another video. Now, as far as being able to tell which meals are gonna really be 2 and which ones are really going to be 1, even if it says 2, one little hint is the nutrition facts. If you look at these, you can see that this one has as many calories in it for the whole pack that this one has for 1 serving. Something else I recommend is trying all of the meals that you want to take out on the trail at home ahead of time. What I'll do for my family is I'll make up 3 or 4 different ones that we haven't yet tried, and we'll basically kind of have like a buffet night, and I'll put a little scoop of each one on plates. We'll try them out. People can go back and grab whatever they want more of. Sometimes things get tossed. Sometimes leftovers go in the fridge. It just depends on how things went. Which meals have you found are actually 2 servings and which ones are really only 1? I'd love to hear your reports of that in the comments below. If you found this even mildly entertaining, and I'm assuming that you have if you've gotten this far, be sure to hit like down below and subscribe. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. whether to include a desiccant or desiccant, I think that's how you say it. Not like that. Decusant or desiccant, yeah, I think that's right.